Let's go Ravens! Something is happening behind the scenes in Baltimore that could completely change the course of this team, and most people haven't even realized it yet. The numbers don't tell the whole story at first glance, but upon closer analysis, we begin to see decisions that could impact key players, reshape the roster, and define how far this team can truly go this season. But before we get into the details, be sure to like this post right now if you truly believe in this team, no matter what. And I want you to leave a comment below saying, "We believe in this team more than ever," because this roster will need that fan energy more than ever this year. Now let's get straight into it, because this is where things start to get uncomfortable. With Jevon Gwynn now officially signed, that already chips away a bit more from that limited cap space. So the Ravens are now in a position where every single dollar truly matters. And as we always say around here, EDC doesn't just stand for Eric Dasa, it stands for every dollar counts. So what are the options? There are two clear paths: restructures or cuts. On the restructure side, the Ravens could free up significant money. Marlon Humphrey could create between 7 to 9 million. Rocco and Smith could open up around 9 million. And Nomi Matabit could free a little over 15 million. Those are big numbers, and they could completely reshape the team's financial flexibility. But restructures aren't the only conversation happening behind the scenes. There are also potential cut candidates, and some of these names might surprise you. Andrew Voorhees is one of them. Yes, a player who actually played significant snaps last season could be released to save about 3.6 million. That's not a small number, especially for a team working with roughly 9 million in effective space. Then you look at Justice Hill, who recently received a roster bonus but could still be released to free up around 3.1 million. And considering he missed a large portion of last season with a neck injury, the Ravens already know what life looks like without him on the field. And then there's Brick Washington, another player whose season ended early and whose situation has been very quiet. If the Ravens move on from him, they could save about 4 million. Now think about that for a second. If you combine those potential moves, you're looking at roughly 10 million in savings. That's actually more than the Ravens' current effective cap space. That's how significant these decisions are. And this is the harsh reality of the NFL. Nobody is rooting for players to lose their jobs, but this is a business, and the Ravens have already shown they can operate without some of these players due to last season's injuries. That matters. That experience gives the front office real data to make tough decisions. Now, Andrew Voorhees presents a different kind of dilemma. The Ravens are clearly looking to improve the guard position. John Simpson is expected to start, no question about that. But the other guard spot is still uncertain, and Voorhees could be part of that competition. There's even a scenario where the Ravens release him and then bring him back on a cheaper deal to reduce his cap hit. It's complicated, but it's very possible. Meanwhile, another name that continues to generate questions is Rashad Bateman. A lot of fans are wondering what his future looks like with this team. But here's the twist. If the Ravens trade him, they would actually lose about 1.5 million in cap space. So financially, it doesn't make much sense unless they're getting a clear upgrade in return. So right now, it looks like he's more likely to stay. But as we all know, anything can happen in this league. And this is where things get even more interesting. Because when you really start connecting all the dots, it becomes clear that the Baltimore Ravens are not just evaluating talent right now, they are evaluating value. Because when your effective cap space is sitting around 9.4 million, every single move has a ripple effect across the entire roster. And think about this scenario for a second. If the Ravens decide to move on from both Justice Hill and Brick Washington, that alone could push them closer to around 15 million in cap space, depending on Jevon Gwynn's exact cap hit. That's a huge jump, and suddenly the conversation changes from we're tight on money to we have flexibility to make a move. And that flexibility could be the difference between just filling out the roster or actually upgrading it. Because let's be real here, the Ravens are not just trying to maintain, they're trying to compete at the highest level. They want to put themselves in position to make a serious run, and to do that, they need depth, they need reliability, and most importantly, they need players who can stay on the field. That's why the injury history of players like Justice Hill and Brick Washington becomes such a big factor in these decisions. It's not just about what they can do when healthy, it's about whether the team can count on them throughout an entire season. And last year, the Ravens already had to adjust without them for long stretches. So from a front office perspective, you start asking tough questions. If we already proved we can function without these players, and we can save millions by moving on, does it make sense to keep them? That's the kind of internal debate happening right now. But let's not forget, there's another layer to all of this: strategy. Because freeing up cap space isn't just about saving money. It's about what you plan to do with that money. Are the Ravens preparing to make one more move in free agency? Are they keeping flexibility for in-season adjustments? Or are they simply trying to create breathing room so they're not forced into desperate decisions later? And this is where things get even more intriguing. Because while some fans might think the Ravens are done making moves and are ready to head straight into the draft, the numbers suggest otherwise. When you're working with such a tight margin, even a single injury during the season could force you into emergency spending. And if you don't have that cushion, you're in trouble. That's why building that extra cap space now could be a proactive move, not just a reactive one. And going back to Rashad Bateman for a moment, his situation perfectly highlights how complex these decisions are. On one hand, there are questions about his role and future. On the other hand, trading him actually puts the Ravens in a worse financial position. So even if there's uncertainty, the numbers are basically telling the Ravens, keeping him might be the smarter move. And that's what makes this entire situation so fascinating. It's not just about who's playing well or who fits the scheme. It's about balancing performance, health, and financial impact all at the same time. This is chess, not checkers. And right now, Eric DeCosta and the Ravens front office are carefully calculating every move, knowing that one wrong decision could limit their ability to improve this team when it matters most. So as we move forward, keep a close eye on these names. Keep a close eye on any sudden roster changes. Because if something happens, it won't be random. It will be the result of all these calculations we just talked about. And it could happen at any moment. And here's the part that Ravens fans really need to lock in on. Because everything we've talked about up to now leads directly into what could define the next phase of this offseason. If the Ravens choose to create that extra cap space, whether through cuts, restructures, or a mix of both, it's not just about surviving financially. It's about positioning themselves to strike at the right moment. Because in the NFL, timing is everything. We've already seen that with the current numbers, they're operating with very limited flexibility. But if they push that number closer to 15 million by making a couple of calculated moves, suddenly they're in a completely different tier when it comes to opportunity. And that's where fans should start asking a bigger question. What are the Ravens waiting for? Because teams don't just clear cap space for no reason. They do it because they have a plan. They do it because they anticipate something, whether it's a late free agent addition, a trade opportunity, or simply preparing for unexpected situations during the season. And let's not overlook something very important here. The Ravens have already shown they are comfortable making bold decisions when necessary. They are not afraid to move on from players if it helps the bigger picture. And with the current financial situation, this might be one of those moments where tough choices are unavoidable. Now think about the locker room impact for a second. If players like Justice Hill or Brick Washington are released, it sends a message to the entire roster. It tells everyone that availability matters. It tells everyone that production alone isn't enough. You have to be reliable. And for a team trying to compete at a high level, that kind of standard can either elevate the group or create pressure. But that's the nature of this league. And then there's the offensive side of the ball, where questions still remain. The situation with Rashad Bateman is still one to watch, even if the financial side suggests he stays. Because even if he remains on the roster, his role, his usage, and his impact are all still under the microscope. So now you're looking at a team that's balancing multiple layers at once: cap management, roster construction, player health, and future planning. And all of it is happening right now, behind the scenes. This is the part of the offseason where championships don't get won on the field, but they can absolutely be influenced by the decisions made in rooms like this. And Ravens fans, you know this organization doesn't operate casually. Every move is calculated. Every dollar is accounted for. Every decision has a purpose. So if something happens, if a player gets released, if a